Here's how I give a 50% off discount to close more new customers without ever having to actually give 50% off my detailing price. What's going on, guys? Luke here with Wilson Auto Detailing and Autodetailer.com. One of the things that I developed over time in my detailing business are certain types of closes over the phone with good leads when I wanted to close them, but they were hesitant for different reasons, and I had to figure out how to overcome their objections. Most of the time in the detailing world, anytime there's a conversation around discounting, it is as literal as it sounds, which means, hey, I'm gonna give you 30% off. It's gonna make the offer more enticing to you as the customer. You're gonna get 30% off the price and say yes to me, and then I'm still gonna have to put out the labor for that discounted price, and I kind of walk away disappointed. So the conversation around discounts is not very strategic, and it's something I found could be leveraged in my detailing business as a guarantee as I was trying to close more customers. Now let me tell you exactly what this guarantee is, and then tell you when to use it and when not to use it. The guarantee sounds something like this. Hey Jenny, it sounds like you really want to get your car detailed, and frankly, I really want to get you on my maintenance schedule after this initial detail anyways, and I know that right now, even after all we've talked about, price is the only thing hanging you up because you had a previous detailer who was detailing at a slightly lower rate. So here's what I'll do. If you're willing to jump on the schedule for the current price we talked about, and you're not 100% satisfied after the detail is over, and I mean over the moon ecstatic about the service that we delivered, then you get 50% off of the entire price, no questions asked, which means best case scenario, you get exactly what you want and more, and worst case scenario, you're actually paying less for a full detail than even the other detailer that you used to be on the schedule with. Does that sound good to you? Now, I call this the 50% guarantee option, and the reason why I call it an option is because it's actually something that gets cashed in later, potentially. So in the same way an employee might get options or stock options in a company that they have to actually exercise in order to get the benefit of that option, that's what this is. Most detailers are trying to close a lead by just going straight for the jugular and saying, hey, I'm gonna give you this percentage price off in order to get you to say yes. And the bottom line is, most of the time, you're not gonna use a guarantee like this until all the way at the end of the conversation. Secondly, it's only when you know the lead and customer is going to be somebody who you want to have on for a long time that becomes sort of like a recurring revenue customer. I'll explain that in just a second. And thirdly, when a guarantee is presented like this, you make it an option, meaning it's not something you have to cash in on today, and you still have a high probability, almost 100% probability, and I'll explain why in just a second, of actually making the full price of the detail. That's why I call it the 50% off guarantee option. What people are looking for is not necessarily an exact discount in the moment, linearly in the conversation in order for them to say yes. What they're looking for underneath all of the price objection might be that they just don't know that they trust you yet, and you're giving them the option to cash in on a lack of trust later if they want. Now, let me preface this with a few things. Number one, I am not a believer in discounting your detailing services. There are obviously nuances to that, but this is part of why I developed this 50% off guarantee option in my detailing business. A guarantee by definition is designed to help you close a lead most of the time because of a lack of trust, which means a guarantee really only needs to be presented in the latter half of a conversation after you've really logically overcome a lot of other objections and you're still dealing with a lead that you've decided you do want to work with because they're a good lead and potentially they're going to represent a lot of back-end revenue later on because they're getting on a maintenance plan or something like that. But there's something intangible that's keeping them from saying yes. And in this situation, for this guarantee for myself and my business, most of the time, it was when I was dealing with a customer who was previously on some sort of regular schedule with another detailer, and that detailer dropped off the face of planet Earth because that happens all the time. And then they're calling me saying, hey, Luke, I used to be on this guy's schedule. We were on for 6 months. He was great. And we were doing it weekly, but now I'm looking to find somebody else because he won't answer his phone anymore. In a situation like that, what ends up happening is even after I've learned I've overcome all of the basic objections, I'm still generally priced much higher than the guy that they were with. And because of that, there's this intangible, immaterial overcome that has to happen, and it generally can't be overcome with any of my classic overcomes. And that's why I created the 50% off guarantee option, because the way this gets overcome is by giving the customer this safety net and this reserve parachute that they have the option to pull, but that they most likely won't. Then you're allowed to show up, actually perform the service. There's something material attached to the price point. The first price has been overcome. They get on the maintenance plan for a much lower price, and now we're back in the saddle and I've got somebody on my recurring revenue stream in my detailing business. Now, the reason why I say that guarantees like this are generally presented at the end of the conversation is because guarantees, I think, in a service-based business like detailing really need to be thought about as a reserve parachute. If you come out swinging with guarantees, number one, you're setting expectations unnecessarily because people haven't even set their own expectations. So my point being is, if you tell people they have the option for a 50% off discount sort of arbitrarily just because you don't want to have any long-time objection handling conversation with somebody, you might actually be giving away the farm and you don't even know it. And detailers often do this because they're just afraid of objection handling over the phone. And so they make all these promises up front to a person who may not have even objected to anything in particular, but now you have to fulfill on these things and you've set their expectation way in outer space and it just doesn't make sense. So like I said, a guarantee is kind of like a reserve parachute at the end of a conversation when you know you want to close the lead and you want to make sure they become a customer. And guarantees are specific in this situation to a service-based business. It gives you as the service provider the power because the person is expected to pay the entire amount that they're actually objecting to, but you're giving them the option for an out, which they most likely won't take, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Now, the second thing I want to make sure I drive home here is this is only used when it's a lead that you know you want to close, because a lot of people are going to watch this video and any experienced detailer would watch this video and say, man, if you're having to go through that much trouble and discount things like that or offer a discount in order to close somebody, that is not a customer you want. Like I said, that is almost always true, but I created a list of triggers in my detailing business a long time ago that kind of would trigger different scripts over the phone based on different situations because I've had this conversation thousands of times with thousands of customers. And what I realized was, like I said, when you're dealing with somebody who wants to come onto your maintenance plan or come onto your recurring revenue or come into your business who's used to a slightly lower, maybe even a significantly lower price from another detailer, this is one of those immaterial overcomes that really is difficult to get around unless you use a guarantee like this. And like I said, I've tested it so many times now, I know that it to be the case. Now, the fourth thing I should add in here is that this guarantee option is most profitable for the detailer and most effective for the customer when you're using it for a customer who you ideally want to put on a maintenance plan, because it kind of sounds like this. Hey, customer, worst case scenario at the end of all of this, your price gets cut in half. You're paying our maintenance detail price for a full service detail, and you walk away with an unbelievable steal, and you know that you can trust us if you want any service in the future. Best case scenario, you get everything you want and more, and your price gets cut in half in the future anyways when you join the maintenance plan, which is below potentially even the detailer that you were using before. And by the way, that framing that you just heard me say is what I call like win-win, or heads I win, tails you lose. You're framing something in a way where you're winning no matter what, saying, hey, worst case scenario, you're gonna get what you want and you're not gonna have to pay for it, and you're gonna know you can trust me, and you're gonna know who to call in the future. And best case scenario, you're gonna get way more than what you want, and your price is gonna get cut in half anyways because you're gonna join the maintenance plan, and it's actually gonna fall below what you were paying before with this guy that you called one-off every now and then because you're gonna be on our maintenance schedule. It's a way of strategically framing everything into a maintenance kind of maintenance plan, and basically saying, hey, no matter what happens here, you're gonna walk away and win. And so coupling this 50% option guarantee with this win-win framework is really what ends up closing a lead, again, if you're wanting to put them on a maintenance plan. Now, I've given you those 4 qualifications of when I use it, when I don't use it, what customers I use it with, what situations, and how I use it and kind of frame it and weave it into the conversation. What does a 50% off guarantee option do for you as the service provider? Number one, it allows you to essentially guarantee your full price and close the customer. Most retailers are using discounts to discount the price in real time in order to close the customer. You're using a discount in this situation to create a safety net for the customer that makes it easier for them to say yes in the moment, and on the back end makes it much harder for them to actually cash in on the discount, so you get paid your full price 9 times out of 10 either way. And you can think about why this is so powerful. Number one, the option of a discount increases your conversion rate on the front end with the right type of lead. They say yes because now they know they have a safety net. But on the back end, in order for them to actually cash in on this 50% off discount, they're gonna have to be at their house with you performing this, several hour long service, finishing. It's gonna be completely awesome. You've over-delivered, and in order for them to cash in on it, they now essentially have to put themselves in a position where they're gonna confront you and say, hey, I just saw you, sweating your tail off. You did all this work on the front end. I am satisfied with this. I want 50% off. Most people never, ever, ever do that. In fact, I don't even know if I can think of one time of using this particular guarantee that anyone has ever cashed in on it. And it's because you have to think about what's happening from first principles on the phone. When someone says, I don't want to pay your prices, what most detailers hear is, oh, I have a price problem. But what I'm describing in this scenario is you actually don't have a price problem. The pricing objection is actually just a manifestation of a trust problem, because they're moving from one service provider to the next service provider, and they don't know that they trust you yet, and they have nothing material to attach their potential trust to. And so part of why the option is so helpful is because now you've closed them, you've performed the service. All they really want to know is, am I very satisfied with this service? And if the answer to that is yes, after they see your material work and the material service done, they in good conscience can never ask for a 50% off discount because they've now crossed the barrier of trust. They realize, okay, I have an outcome that I can attach to the price. I'm satisfied with the outcome. Therefore, I don't feel right about changing this price. So you've increased your conversion rate on the front end. You've now created a scenario where it's very easy to segue into the maintenance funnel because this is a person who actually does value detailing at a lower price. And they've come from another service provider where at some sort of regularity, they were actually receiving the detailing, which means now you have the perfect offer for them. You've crossed the barrier of trust. You've already given them tons of power on the front end of the conversation by giving them the option to basically confront you. They decided not to, reinforcing their stance of trusting you. And all of a sudden, this becomes a very powerful lead customer recurring revenue situation. And I've said this in other videos talking about how to overcome specific price objections on the phone when you're talking to detailing customers. And like I said, the only reason why it's easy to rattle these things off is because I've literally had this conversation thousands of times with thousands of different detailing customers. And what you realize over time is that all these conversations are basically the same. I call it the pricing bodyguard. Most people have a pricing bodyguard. When you present a price to them for detailing, they immediately say, oh my goodness, that's too expensive. That's not really not what I'm looking for. And the way to get past the pricing bodyguard into what the actual objection is to simply ask questions. And what you realize in this particular situation, when someone generally is moving from one service provider to another service provider, is while they might object to price, what's actually happening is they're objecting to trust. They're saying, I don't know what kind of service you provide. I have this material evidence of what this other service was like, and now you're trying to charge me more money, but I don't know what type of material service to attach to you because I've never done business with you. And that's why the 50% off guarantee option allows you to overcome that in an immediate sense, make them feel safe because they get the option to say, no, I'm not going to pay you that. But of course, at the end of the day, they almost always do. And in my situation, 100% of them have. I've never had somebody cash in on it. And so fundamentally, you're simply giving them this material service that they can actually see, they can experience the end result, and they can attach the price to it in order to trust you moving forward and overcome that objection. At the end of the day, most detailers get really egotistical and haughty, and they're like, I don't do discounts, And the bottom line is, no matter how established you are in your detailing business, you are going to have to deal with human beings on the phone, and human beings always knee-jerk to price. It just is what it is, no matter how established you are. That can be mitigated over time, but it cannot be eliminated. And so I've just accepted in my detailing business, it's something that I assume is going to happen on the phone, and I want to have plenty of triggers that sort of trigger me to go down certain roads in the conversation that allow me to close the right type of customers and, of course, to discern who is not the right type of customer and to say no to. But the 50% off guarantee option is a very simple way to do this. All right, guys, hope this was helpful. If you want to grab more info on how to overcome other types of price objections on the phone, check out the video on screen where I break down some of my most powerful price objections, especially for beginners and intermediate guys who are under like $250K a year in their detailing business. It's going to seriously help you close a lot more customers. And as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing and AutoDetailer.com, if you are already a detailer established in your business and you want to get around the most vetted and qualified group of professionals nationwide, go below to AutoDetailer.com, submit the form. I'd love to book a one-on-one call with you to chat about membership to see if it's a good fit for you. And I'll see you guys in the next video.